For years, I thought Jim really enjoyed hanging out with me, and now I find out I'm just the most easily manipulated person around. Thanks, Chief. As sad as I am, it's an incredible honor to pay tribute to my great friend, Deputy Chief Jim Waters. You need only look at the turnout yesterday and at this service today in order to understand the impact Jim Waters had on so many people and on our city as a whole. I can't do justice to Jim's life and accomplishments in 5 minutes, so I'll just talk about the person that Jim was. His list of accomplishments would take us hours. I met Jim in 1993 when we were both working on West District. Jim was a fairly new officer, and I was the older, more experienced officer, so he looked up to me and he followed my lead. And despite that obvious lapse in judgment, Jim grew into a great police officer, and I really want to emphasize that. His work at the command level is legendary, but he was a great police officer first and foremost, no doubt in part to the legacy of his family and police service. I've been blessed to have worked with all of the Waters boys and have counted them as trusted friends for many years. I met Jim Sr. early in my career, and I see where Jim, Tim, and Mitch acquired their police talent. If you had to build a police officer prototype, it would look just like Jim Waters. He was tough, as are all the Waters, and few people saw that side of him. Everyone remembers that big smile and the huge personality, but Jim was very tough when he needed to be. Sergeant Josh Shaughnessy told me that Jim used to tell suspects during interrogations not to mistake his kindness for weakness, and that was very good advice. Jim was anything but weak. That toughness, though, was wrapped in a heart as big as could be. He was 6'5" of heart. He was as kind and caring for others as anyone could be. You add to that his natural intelligence and a moral compass that always pointed true north and a deep desire to serve his fellow man, and you have a great police officer. That was Jim Waters. Jim did as many jobs on the police department as anyone I've known, including some work as a civilian. He had such broad and varied experience to draw from, and when he became a supervisor, he quickly emerged as a leader on this department. Everybody wanted to work for Jim, myself included. When you add incredible vision and imagination to the qualities that I just mentioned earlier, you have the makings of a great police leader. In 2011, that leadership was recognized, and Jim was appointed East District Commander. Eventually, he was promoted to Assistant Chief, and then his final assignment as Deputy Chief of Investigations. He did incredible things, and he touched so many lives, but a detailed list of that will have to wait for another time. When he was promoted to East District Commander, Jim asked me to be his executive officer. For the next few years, we were joined at the hip. We worked long hours, and when we finally went home, we were like teenagers. We'd talk on the phone, and we'd text into the night about solving the problems of the world. And I would usually wake up in the morning to find emails that had been sent long after I went to sleep. I think my kids, Eric and Emily, might have used the term bromance a couple times, but it was strictly work. We worked incredibly hard with the rest of the East District team that Jim assembled. And in spite of the hard work and the amount of work, we had a great time. Captain Mark Rice and I were just commenting about that the other day, that we never worked so hard and we never had so much fun, and that was another one of Jim's gifts to us. We built new programs and partnerships in the community, and we worked to suppress crime and improve the quality of life on East District, and Jim did a fantastic job. Jim, Sherry, and my wife Cheryl and I even double dated. A typical night out, we had dinner followed by a homicide. And tragically, that's absolutely true. We had barely finished dinner on a Friday night, and Jim and I got called out to a homicide scene while he was assistant chief and I was commander. And I don't say that to make light of the homicide. In fact, I still remember that victim and just spoke to the detective about that Monday, about how the trial had gone. And I guarantee you Jim would still remember that victim as well. He was that kind of guy, and those things weren't taken lightly. But I tell the story to illustrate the sacrifices that Jim has made. The past 6 years, that's what his life's been about. He sacrificed so much to serve this city. And the sacrifices that Jim made, they were shared by his family. And we owe the family a debt of gratitude. So to the entire Waters family, on behalf of a very grateful city, I want to say thank you. One of Jim's abilities was he could read people better than a psychologist could. He could see all your faults and weaknesses, and then he would look right past them and see your strengths and your qualities. Strengths sometimes you didn't even know that you had yourself. He put people in positions where they could capitalize on those strengths and let them grow and thrive as police officers. He made everyone feel special and valued, and that's part of the secret of the magic that he performed in the community. Jim seemed bigger than life, but his world was really very focused. He liked horses and flying. His two main passions were his family and IMPD. Jim loved his family. He talked about you all the time. I don't think a day went by that he didn't mention family matters and talk about you. I could see how important family was to him, and I know he enjoyed his time so much with you. Jim's other passion was his IMPD family. He worked so hard to improve the department in ways that many officers don't even know about. I heard him lobby every influential person that he could corner, and as Chief Roach mentioned, about improving our pension, not just to help retiring officers, but to improve the diversity in our ranks. He worked to create an office to help officers transition into the private sector at the end of their police career. I watched him fight as a commander and a chief to provide sound policies for our agency. And when officers were doing their job and they were doing the right thing, Jim Waters always had their back. Jim was a great son, brother, husband, father, grandfather, police officer, visionary police leader, and community builder. But especially, he was just a great friend to so many of us. Jim always closed his communications to officers by thanking them for their hard work and service and telling them it was an honor to serve with them. On behalf of the men and women of IMPD, I want to say Deputy Chief James Waters, Jr., thank you for your service, and the honor has been all ours. Thank you.